Have you ever wondered why your English still sounds a bit unnatural, even though you know all the grammar rules and vocabulary? You speak clearly, yet something feels off. Maybe it's not what you say, but how you connect your ideas. In this episode, you'll uncover the secret ingredient fluent speakers use every day without even thinking: connectors. These tiny words act like invisible threads that turn scattered sentences into smooth conversations. Curious to know what they are and how to use them naturally? Get ready, we're about to reveal the tools that could transform the way you speak English forever. Once you realize that connectors are the key to sounding fluent and natural in English, the next question is, what exactly are they and why are they so powerful? At first glance, connectors may seem like just tiny, ordinary words, like and, but, or so, but in truth, they are much more than that. They are the hidden framework of every conversation, the glue that holds your ideas together and helps listeners follow your thoughts effortlessly. Without connectors, even well-formed sentences can sound robotic, choppy, or disconnected. Imagine trying to tell a story without using words like because, then, or however. Your speech might become a simple list of facts. I woke up, I ate breakfast, I went outside. It's grammatically correct, but it lacks life, rhythm, and flow. Now compare that to, I woke up late this morning. Because of that, I skipped breakfast. Then I rushed out the door, but I still missed the bus. Notice how the connectors create a clear sequence and emotional rhythm. Suddenly, it feels like a real story, not just a string of unrelated actions. That's the true magic of connectors. They transform your English from functional to fluent. Connectors also help your brain organize thoughts more clearly. When you use phrases like on the other hand, in addition, or as a result, you're not just making your speech smoother. You're guiding your listener through a structured, logical path. You're saying, here's what I think, and here's how all these ideas connect. Native speakers use these transitions instinctively, but as a learner, you can absolutely train yourself to use them with purpose and precision. Even more importantly, connectors help buy you time when speaking. Instead of filling the silence with or you can use a connector to pause naturally while preparing your next thought. For example, I agree with your point, however, gives you a moment to breathe and organize your ideas before continuing. So if you've ever felt that your English lacks fluency or sounds like you're reading a textbook aloud, connectors may be exactly what you've been missing. They're not complex grammar rules. They're practical, everyday tools used in every conversation, presentation, or casual chat. And the best part? Once you begin noticing and using them, your English will not only sound more natural, it will feel more natural. In the next section, we'll explore the first group of connectors, those that help you add information smoothly and effectively. Get ready to level up your speaking flow and start sounding more like a native, one connector at a time. Now that you understand why connectors are so essential to natural fluent speech, let's dive into the first group, connectors for adding information. These are the tools that allow you to build your thoughts step by step, smoothly expanding on ideas without sounding repetitive or robotic. Whether you're sharing your opinion, describing something, or giving instructions, using the right connectors will make your message clearer and more engaging. One of the most common and versatile connectors is and. It's probably the first connector you ever learned in English. Though simple, and serves as the foundation for combining nouns, verbs, phrases, or even full sentences. For example, I like coffee and tea. Here, and connects two nouns. Or she wakes up and exercises. In this case, it connects two verbs. But despite its usefulness, overusing and, especially in longer conversations, can make your speech sound repetitive or overly simplistic. That's where other connectors come in to add variety and depth. The next useful connector is also, slightly more formal than and. Also adds a touch of emphasis when introducing new but related information. It can be placed at the beginning of a sentence. Also, she's very hardworking. In the middle, he also plays the guitar, or after the verb to be. The results were also impressive. Learning how to place also correctly can make your sentences sound more polished and intentional. However, it's important not to confuse also with to or as well, which we'll explore next. As well as is another way to add information, especially when you want to connect two nouns or phrases with equal importance. For example, she speaks English as well as Spanish. This connector tends to be more formal and often appears in writing or presentations. One common mistake is trying to use as well as to connect two complete sentences, which can make the sentence grammatically awkward. It's best used to link similar types of words, like two nouns or two verbs. Then we have in addition to, which is especially useful when you're listing points in a more structured or formal setting. For example, in addition to the salary, the job offers great benefits. It's clear, precise, and excellent for building arguments or highlighting multiple advantages. Lastly, one of the most impactful connectors in this group is not only, but also. This structure is powerful because it doesn't just add information, it adds emphasis and contrast at the same time. For instance, he's not only intelligent, but also incredibly kind. It makes your sentence more dynamic and memorable. Just be careful with sentence structure when using it at the beginning of a sentence, as it may require subject-verb inversion, e.g., not only did she pass the test, but she also got the highest score. Together, these connectors give you the flexibility to express complex ideas smoothly and naturally. By practicing them regularly, you'll be in soonly. After learning how to add information smoothly with connectors like and, also, or in addition to, the next step in sounding fluent and logical is mastering connectors that explain why something happens and what happens as a result. These are known as cause and effect connectors, and they are incredibly useful for giving reasons, telling stories, persuading others, and making your speech sound more structured and intelligent. One of the most frequently used connectors in this group is because. It's a clear, direct way to explain the reason behind an action or situation. For example, I stayed home because it was raining, or she's tired because she didn't sleep well. The structure is simple. The main clause comes first, followed by because and the reason. It's important to remember that the part introduced by because cannot stand alone. It's not a full sentence on its own. Now, if because shows the reason, then so shows the result. It's one of the most common connectors in spoken English. For example, it was raining, so I stayed home, or he was hungry, so he ate. It helps move your story forward by connecting an action with its outcome. But here's a crucial tip. Don't use because and so in the same sentence to explain the same cause-effect relationship. For instance, because it was raining so I stayed home is incorrect. You must choose one, either the reason, because, or the result, so, not both. If you want to sound more formal or academic, you can use therefore or as a result. These connectors are perfect for presentations, essays, or professional conversations. For example, he didn't study, therefore he failed the exam, or the company improved its marketing, as a result sales increased. These words typically start a new sentence and are followed by a comma. They help you sound more polished and professional while stating consequences. Another useful connector is due to, which means because of, but is usually followed by a noun or noun phrase, not a full sentence. For instance, the flight was delayed due to bad weather, or the meeting was cancelled due to a power outage. A common mistake is using it before a full clause, like due to it was raining. This is incorrect. Instead use because it was raining. By using cause and effect connectors, you're no longer just listing actions, you're explaining relationships between ideas. This helps your listeners understand the logic behind your statements, making your speech more convincing and easier to follow. In the next section, we'll explore how to show contrasts and comparisons, an essential skill for giving opinions, discussing pros and cons, and thinking critically in English. Once you've learned how to explain reasons and results using cause and effect connectors like because, so, therefore, and due to, The next step in building natural, fluent English is mastering connectors that show comparison and contrast. These allow you to discuss similarities and differences, a vital skill in conversations, debates, presentations, and storytelling. By comparing ideas, you make your message clearer. By contrasting, you show complexity and nuance. Let's begin with like, one of the most commonly used informal connectors. It helps draw a simple comparison between two things. For example, he swims like a fish, or this phone feels like my old one. The word like helps your listener immediately visualize the similarity. It's often used in speech and casual writing. Just be careful not to overuse it. Too much like in your sentences can make your speech sound repetitive or vague. For more formal situations, similarly is a great alternative. It is often used to mirror an idea you've already mentioned. For example, she enjoys classical music. Similarly, her brother listens to jazz. This connector helps you show a pattern or parallel, which is especially useful in writing, lectures, or structured speech. When you want to highlight differences instead of similarities, on the other hand, is your go-to connector. It introduces an opposing idea or a different point of view. For instance, living in the city is exciting. On the other hand, it can be noisy and crowded. This connector signals to your listener that a contrast is coming, helping them follow your train of thought more easily. A more formal and flexible contrast connector is however. It works in both writing and speech and can appear at the beginning or in the middle of a sentence. Example, the first design was effective, however the second one was more innovative. Or, she's very friendly, however she's sometimes shy around strangers. Remember to use commas appropriately when placing however in your sentence. Another key connector in this group is although. It shows a contrast within the same sentence and is often used to introduce a surprising or unexpected idea. For example, although it was raining, we went for a walk. Or, although he was tired, he kept working. Just make sure not to use although and but together in the same sentence. Although it was late, but we stayed, is incorrect. Using comparison and contrast connectors helps your speech feel more thoughtful and complete. They show that you're considering multiple sides of an issue, adding depth to your communication. Whether you're weighing options, sharing opinions, or telling a story, these connectors will help you sound more like a native speaker, organized, fluent, and expressive. Coming up next, we'll look at sequencing connectors, which help you tell stories, give instructions, or describe processes in clear, logical order. After mastering how to compare and contrast ideas using connectors like on the other hand, although and however, the next natural step is learning how to guide your listener through a sequence of events or explain your ideas clearly using examples and conclusions. These connectors are essential for storytelling, giving instructions, and making your speech feel organized and complete. Let's start with sequencing connectors. These are the tools that help you tell stories or describe a process in logical steps. Common ones include first, then, after that, next, and finally. For example, if you're describing your morning routine, you might say, first, I wake up. Then I brush my teeth. After that, I have breakfast. Finally, I head to work. These connectors create a natural flow, guiding the listener through each part of your story without confusion. A quick tip, first and then are used in both casual speech and writing, while finally often adds a sense of completion or relief. When telling a story or explaining a procedure, using these words helps prevent your message from sounding like a random list of actions. Instead, your words feel like part of a well-structured narrative. Now, when you want to clarify your ideas or make abstract concepts easier to understand, example connectors become incredibly helpful. Some of the most useful ones are, for example, such as like, including, and to illustrate. Let's say you're discussing healthy habits. It's important to stay active. For example, walking or cycling daily can improve your heart health. Or, I enjoy outdoor activities such as hiking and swimming. Each of these connectors helps you provide concrete support for your ideas, which not only strengthens your communication, but also keeps your audience engaged. Like is more casual and common in speech, while such as and to illustrate are more formal, great for writing, presentations, or academic settings. Finally, you'll want to learn how to wrap up your ideas effectively with concluding connectors. These include in conclusion, to sum up, overall, therefore, and as a result. They signal to your listener that your message is coming to an end and help reinforce your key points. For instance, in conclusion, connectors are essential for fluent English communication. Or, she worked hard. As a result, she got promoted. Using these connectors shows that you can organize and summarize your thoughts clearly, a skill highly valued in both personal and professional communication. It brings a sense of clarity, closure, and confidence to your speech. In the end, by combining all the connector types, adding, cause-effect, comparison, sequence, examples, and conclusions, you gain the ability to speak English not just correctly, but powerfully and naturally. And that's how you begin to truly think and communicate like a native speaker.